global insurer MAPFRE champions open innovation as part of its purpose to take care of what matters to customers. They use alliances with other players and emerging technologies to innovate and create a positive impact on the business and society. In this panel, moderated by Frog, part of Capgemini Invent, they'll discuss responsible AI, safe and trustworthy technology, driving the future economy. What is needed to make this technology sustainable and unlock its full potential? Please welcome MAPFRE.
So hello and welcome to the last panel of the day. My name is Octavio Hem, I'm Vice President at Frog, part of Capgemini Invent. And in the next 30 minutes, we will be talking about responsible AI and how the insurance and insurtech ecosystem can contribute to its development. To have the conversation, we have on stage with me Bárbara Fernández. She's the Deputy Director of Open Innovation at MAPFRE. We have Adriana Cosillama, who is a co-founder at Holistic AI, and Luis Aranda, AI Policy and Analyst at OECD. So welcome. So if you agree, let's start talking about the context, I would say, right? So the transformational value of AI is clear. The business case is clear. However, according to multiple studies, what we're seeing is that the number of firms that are deploying AI use cases at scale, it's limited. So why is that? Why is that happening? What are the factors that are driving that situation?
I guess start with me. I was thinking about some kind of counterfactual to the question, and I remember I had a great supervisor. It was a British man, an Englishman. He's from rural England, from Cornwall. And when he did his undergrad in computer science, he discovered there was a workshop taking place. He is from the 50s, 60s. There was a workshop about AI. And he went to see what it was all about because, well, he knows about AI more than probably all the people who were going to be running that workshop. When he went in, he realized that AI was artificial intelligence and not artificial insemination that he was thinking. And you can see that the pace of acceptance of the term, and now people getting more familiarized with it as moving forward. So the adoption is increasing, but in a very mild and slow pace. And maybe now, with the whole generative AI, you see the S-curve effect taking place, and things will actually happen. I do think that there's definitely two potential reasons why the adoption has not been that substantial and so quicker. I think one reason is about regulation. Yeah. I think a lot of large companies feel a little bit concerned about deploying something in the real world without having a good regulatory framework around that. Funny enough, I think in this case, regulation actually enables rather than don't enable the deployment. And I think the second thing, which is the soul of this event, and the soul of MAPFRE as well, is insurance. I actually think that there is a huge opportunity for insurance to step in and be able to mediate this risk that a lot of companies feel like before deploying these AI systems. So this is my take from the outside.
Yes. So you've been talking about regulation, right? And we have been seeing and witnessing a lot happening in the recent months about regulation in different regions, across regions. And so maybe, Luis, you can, from your point of view, you can help us, decode a little bit the trendscape that we have in front of us. So for you, what are the key trends regarding regulation, and how do you see things moving forward regarding regulation of AI and around responsible AI?
Thank you, Edgar, and a pleasure to be here. Well, regulation is evolving today. Now, just a disclaimer, at the OECD, we're not regulators. So we help countries understand, we inform policy on AI and help them design a regulation at some point, but we don't regulate the AI environment. What I can say from the perspective that we have, the high-level perspective that we have, is that we have two fields. We can put most countries under two categories. One, horizontal regulation, which is one huge regulation for all industries. For instance, the European Union with the proposed AI Act, and Canada as well. And the other group has it's more towards horizontal regulations, which means that each industry will design their own regulations, and maybe they have codes of conduct at the top, like the US AI Bill of Rights, but then the industries are in charge of seeing what's missing for the industry and how to regulate it. Now, those are the two categories that we always talk about, but then there's another categorization that I like to mention, because this helps us understand the differences that countries are taking, the different approaches that countries are taking to regulating AI. So the second category is some countries are principles-based regulation, and some others are rules-based. When we say rules-based, that means that the regulation is very prescriptive, and they want to put everything in writing. And that's more or less the approach that the European Union is taking, whereas principles-based, it's more like the UK, the US, and Singapore, and others. So I would mention those two groupings. And this is very related, and this is an insight that we're getting. It's very related as well to the judiciary systems in each country. So in countries where the legal system, the courts work very well, you can leave the decision on whether an AI system failed or not to the judge himself or herself. You don't have to put it in the law. In the US, for instance, where if you get burnt by a coffee, you can sue the company because they didn't warn you, and you probably win the case. You can see that people have access to the court system more easily than in other countries, like probably some European countries. And that has an effect on the way countries regulate technology. So it's important to keep that in mind when we talk about the different approaches to regulation. I will leave it there, and I can come back to other things later.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have any perspectives also on regulation, how it impacts, responsible AI, insurance, the role of insurance in the AI ecosystem also, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. The insurance sector is super regulated, and we are always paying attention to these new regulations that appear, even more when you talk about artificial intelligence. That's when we go crazy, because there's no clarity on that. We are given some kind of insights, we are receiving some kind of guidance, but at the end, there's not completely approved. And this is something that in the insurance sector makes us feel super uncomfortable. But the thing is, at the end, we need to help in this generation of guidance, in this generation of processes, and at some point inform the regulators in order to build together this approach, because this is something super new, and that's what responsible AI is about. So at insurance, as we are a regulated sector, we need to be super on top of that, and we need to help on that regards, because it doesn't matter if the regulation about this artificial intelligence is in place right now. We need to be compliant with other things that are super close to this concept, things related to data, or even the specific for the risk profiling and things like that. So, yeah, we need to work together, and this is the thing that I'm going to be saying once and again during this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe I can just add something, because this is a very interesting point. At the OECD, we think that the name of the game today is interoperability when it comes to regulation. Because if regulations are not interoperable across jurisdictions, you have the problems that you're mentioning, where companies are suffering when they move from one jurisdiction to another, and that's not beneficial to anyone, neither the companies nor the customers. There is an approach, there are flexible approaches to regulation that are being implemented as well, such as sandboxes, for instance, where you can try out solutions and the regulation can be adjusted based on the learnings from the experiments. But there's also responsible business conduct. And I don't know if people here are familiar with that, but that's the responsible business conduct guidelines basically provide a set of rules or guidelines to companies to follow to respect human rights. And they're available for other industries like minerals and I think finance and agriculture. And what we want to do is bring them to the AI industry. We believe it's low-hanging fruit, and it's flexible because they have some teeth. Usually, codes of conduct don't have any teeth. Well, this one in particular has some kind of teeth because countries that accept them, they need to nominate a national contact point. And when there's a complaint, if civil society or labor unions come and complain about the use of AI by a company, that complaint goes to the national contact point, and they're tasked with solving that complaint by mediation or arbitration before they get to court. And it's proven to be a very successful system in other industries. Approximately half of the complaints are solved by mediation in this way. And we believe that given the pace with which AI is moving today, regulation will be outdated by the time it gets passed. So we need flexible mechanisms, and this could be a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so you were mentioning also, Barbara, and you also this, I mean, all this, everything that is happening, it's an ecosystem play in reality. If you think about it, it's an ecosystem play. We're talking about the regulator, we're talking about the insurers, we're talking about the companies, we're talking about, and there's a role that to be played by startups and the insurtech community in this, right? So we have been witnessing the emergence of new players, new value propositions, new business models. And to me, I mean, one question I want to make to you, Adriano. So how do you see the role, of startups and the insurtech community in accelerating the adoption of responsible AI?
I think the startup ecosystem has a big role to play. My sense is mostly because in the startup environment, you have way more capacity to do things in a much quicker pace. And a lot of my cohort, I did my PhD a while ago. A lot of the people in my cohort, they are starting their own businesses. And we brought a lot of that technical background into that. So I think there's definitely a role for those cohorts of PhD, masters, bachelors, etc. coming out and starting their own companies and be able to tackle a specific problem. So for example, maybe companies are interested to use these language models across the enterprise. How can you, for example, monitor how these language models are getting used? So a specific problem, specific activity, you can build up a startup around that and then off you go to market. And there will be several startups for different activities. We as a company, Holistic, we provide guardrails for companies that wants to adopt AI, but try to do that on a trusted way. So we're more kind of enterprise, kind of self-service. The people who work in your company can bring the AI use cases to our platform. You catalog them, you do the risk assessment, you help the compliance. So we do one portion of the life cycle. We don't do everything. There will be companies that do the monitoring of those systems, etc. So I think there is an opportunity for an ecosystem to be built, and I think the more as we go along, the more the services are going to get sophisticated. We're already talking about audits of AI systems. That was something which we specialized in early on. It will become a big requirement based on the regulation that is coming, and I can only foresee more and more coming. It's just difficult to know how the pace of the technology will be, what will be the next big thing. But I'm 100% sure that there will be further and further startups into this space.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want to add anything related to the role of insurtech from your point of view also, right? Barbara or Luis, if you have anything to add on that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. One of the biggest value that the startup brings is that they are faster. They are faster and they are super flexible. And having said that, it's also important to bear in mind that this is a new topic that is going, when we are talking about artificial intelligence in terms of risk monitoring, in terms of governance of AI, what we are saying is that we are going to see new startups around this big topic, but it's important to pay attention to who is really providing solutions, the level of maturity, because again, this is something new, so all the startups working in this environment are really young. So yeah, it's because they are fast, because they are flexible, but this is a super relevant topic. We need to find a good partner. We need to find someone who really generates that trust, someone who can work close to your business, and at the end, someone who can provide you a long-term partnership, because this is going to be a journey. So it's not so easy. It's the startups, but it's not every single startup. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to add anything, Luis. If not, we can jump. Yeah?
Well, I just maybe mention the importance of using what's already out there and not trying to reinvent the wheel. When you're implementing AI, there are a lot of tools that exist already to fight biases, to increase transparency or explainability in systems, and to implement these principles that are so hard to implement. And so when companies are trying to implement trustworthy AI, they should look out there for these tools and adapt them to their specific context. As Barbara said, it's easier for startups than for bigger companies, but there's a role to play for bigger companies as well in developing these tools and making them available to the rest of the ecosystem. We have a catalog of tools that we launched a couple of months ago, and Holistic AI has contributed with tools to it. And it's basically a repository, a central repository. It's like a shopping site. And developers can just go there, look for the tools that they need. Is it about bias? Is it codes of conduct? Is it in the insurance industry? They can just click on filters, and they'll get a list of tools that they can use and adapt to their context. So that's what I would add here. You know, like, use what's out there. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just make sure you're adapting it to your context.
Yeah.
Jumped into the portfolio, existing portfolio solutions, right, and products and services that exist on the market regarding AI, right? If we look at the market, the portfolio is still very limited. It's in its infancy for multiple reasons. So the question is, how do you see it evolving in the future in general? You know, how do you see the market accelerating, or what are the factors that will drive that acceleration during the market?
Who was?
It's for me.
Yeah, I mean,
Could be,
anyone.
I mean, I'll let you go. No, you go for it.
Yeah, because this is the foresight question, so it's
a little bit of a foresight question. I know. I don't think that you have to answer with, you know, with a prediction, but more, you know, on what are the factors or things that you deem, you know, necessary to make it happen.
Yeah, honestly, this is something that could sound like a topic, but it's completely true. This is time to learn, and this is time to test. But this is a topic that requires collaboration of the ecosystem. And when we talk about the ecosystem, we are mentioning regulators, or not regulators, but close to regulation, guys. Startups, large companies, because those guys that are working in ML ops for years obviously have a relevant role here, and they are going to be providing solutions in this area. So it's something to collaborate. I think this is going to grow super quickly because regulation is here, and this is going to be a key driver.
Yeah.
So we are going to see a lot of growth, a lot of movement, a lot of noise, and we need to be prepared. And the only way to be prepared is getting the right information, learning, and sharing. In my opinion, that's the recipe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything to add? Yep.
No, I completely agree, I should say. I think if there is one thing that has substantially changed over the last 5 years, I can say, is the amount of tools, not on the responsible AI side, but more on the building of AI side. I remember the first time I did a machine learning model in my life was 10 years ago, actually 11 now. And it was very difficult to do. I think nowadays I can actually do on my phone. I can literally now use Google infrastructure using the Colab. Computation is available there. I build my own model. Everything's just off the shelf. Here you go. So this democratization in some ways, or this availability of technology would just increase the amount of risk that can be pursued around. And there will be plenty more, not only good companies that would emerge, but also a lot of bad actors which will take place. So I think, again, going to the initial point about insurance for AI, I think that's going to become a big, interesting topic as we go along.
Mm-hmm. So, Luis?
Well, I think it's a good question, and as Barbara said, it's time to learn, but not to learn alone. I think we need to learn together. It's easy for the private sector to criticize regulation, but today I think there is a window of opportunity for the private sector, for civil society, for everyone to participate in policy design and creation and to find the avenues to do so. And it's not about lobbying, it's about honest participation to make regulation that works for everyone. And that's, I think, the private sector should do more on that side. They should try to participate a bit more instead of just sitting on the sidelines and kind of like criticizing what's going on in the policy area. But also governments need to open up avenues for collaboration with the private sector, and they need to make it easier for companies, but also startups that don't have the means necessarily to participate in all these discussions, to do so in a meaningful way. And so I think that's where we need to go. I think there's a window of opportunity now, but it's getting smaller and smaller as we go and as regulation approaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, what you are talking about, all of you, it's about dynamics, right? Some certain dynamics that should be in place, in the ecosystem. So you already mentioned a few of them, but do you have any other hints or ideas on what kind of dynamics are necessary to make it work, basically, from a responsible point of view?
Well, when you go to a large company, I think there's a dynamic which we cannot get rid of, which is the internal one. And the first thing is to organize this or try to clarify this noise around artificial intelligence, because this is something that is providing a lot of benefit in the companies, and this is something that we need to use. So this internal dynamic, let's say it awareness or the way you want, but you need to explain what it's about, what risks are there, what are the relevant agents in this ecosystem, and try to clarify. So in my opinion, this is something that is absolutely essential, the internal dynamics, because sometimes we pay a lot of attention of things that are happening around, but the challenge piece for a large company is dealing with the internal teams, and indeed, because this is something new which is connecting different teams. For instance, in our case, you can see there are people from business, from data privacy, from security, from IT, from, well, innovation. I will forget someone for sure, but it's crazy. So you need to put together all these teams to try to work with a deliverable mindset. So it's not easy at all. So in my opinion, this is the challenging piece. And then looking outside to deal with the rest of the ecosystem, but don't forget the internal piece and how to manage that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I concur with Barbara. I think the change management is the most difficult thing. And I was remembering right now a very quick story. I was a data scientist 5-7 years ago, and I was building some models that would automate pricing for some products on an e-commerce website. So I was doing that work, and that work would, in principle, change the power dynamics of some of the people that was doing that manually themselves. So to convince them, they brought some people from MIT, very well jacked up and all suited to try to convince them. And I was always confused. And I remember my boss telling me, even though you're doing this work and everything is good, the MIT people know better. So just bring them up just to give you that impression. So change management is going to be very important. I think there are a few things that companies can do. I would say kind of the internal hygiene. Every time they engage with them, we say, start cataloging how you use AI in your company. That's very important. Build up, even if it's a small Excel spreadsheet, just having that is already very useful. And then start to do some form of risk assessment, see which ones impact more your business, see which teams are deploying things, etc. Just have the analysis done, and that will be quite useful. Small things, but makes a big difference when you are down the line. When the regulation waves kick in, you have to change your business 180. But if you do this small preparations, it's not a 180. Maybe it's just a 90 degrees or something.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is more a question for them, I think.
Yeah.
But I agree with change management is very important, but not only in the private sector, also in the public sector. Because public administrations are also starting to use AI internally, and it's not easy to change a culture in government. and to do change management. If it's not easy in the private sector, it's definitely harder in the public sector. So I think it's a good point that the panel is making here, and that we should also internalize for the public sector as well.
Yeah. So from trying to summarize everything that we have been saying, right? So I see that there is a call to action, basically to learn together. That's the main concept that I get. But beyond that, since we're approaching the time, so if you have anything else that you would like to add, any final remark beyond that call to action that you want to share with the audience?
Who starts? I start. Okay, well, my main message here is this is something that we need to work together and learn together, as Luis was saying. I honestly think that insurance companies have a role and a responsibility here. First, because we are using artificial intelligence and we need to do it in the proper way, but also because we need to ensure and help our customers when deploying safe, trustworthy, and sustainable AI. I honestly think we have a role, we can help supporting that, and in the future, who knows when, maybe we can ensure that when we know enough about that risk. But honestly, this is a call to action, to learn, and to assume that responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I will use the words of my co-founder, who is in the audience. AI is probably one of the most exciting technologies we're going to have over there. He would say we are now going through the fourth industrial revolution. So this is like a huge opportunity. There's going to be so many new things popping up. Maybe some of you had your first experience with AI 6 months ago, playing with ChatGPT. I mean, that's just the beginning. Yes. That's the early taste of this. It is a new adventure we all are going to go through. And I think we have a part to play. I think MAPFRE has a part to play. I think Holistic has a part to play. Our idea is to help companies govern, risk manage, and achieve compliance with AI. But I think there's going to be way more interesting new things and new problems that's going to emerge. But we are there, and we are very excited just to be part of this journey.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, learning together.
Yeah.
Learning together, yes, in the present, but from the good things that others have done, as I mentioned, from the tools that have been created already and that have been proven to work, from the catalog that is already available. So learning from the good things and learning from the bad things that others have done before. And for this, I think it's important to keep an eye on the incidents, on the AI incidents that have materialized and resulted in harms in the past. We're tracking them in real time at the OECD. We're hoping to inform policy with these incidents and to be able to use that evidence to try to classify systems by their risk levels. Maybe we're talking about a system that is high risk, but we don't have any evidence. For instance, the European AI Act has this categorization, but we need more data, more evidence, and we think that by looking at incidents, we can do that. So learning together from the good things and the bad things, and that's going to lead to interoperability in AI, would be my message.
So I think that with that final insight, I think that we are ready to close the panel, if you agree. So thank you very much to the three of you, and thank you very much to you all. We hope you enjoy the rest of the evening and the rest of the show. So thank you very much.
Thank you.